Ladies, let me tell you something right now. Some of y'all are sitting there confused, scratching your head, wondering why this man acts like he don't care 1 minute, but then pops up the next like he owns stock in your life. You're thinking, why he's so distant if he likes me? Well, baby girl, let me break it down for you. Some men don't come out and say how they feel, but the signs. Oh, they're louder than a marching band. Now, pay attention, because if he's acting all mysterious, but doing these 9 things, trust me, you got prime real estate in his head. Sign number 1, he watches you when you ain't looking. You ever catch him staring? Not that quick glance. Nah, I'm talking about that deep, focused look like he's studying for an exam. He might turn his head real fast, like he wasn't doing nothing. But believe me, sis, he was locked in. That's not just looking, that's memorizing. You don't stare at somebody like that unless they already live in rent-free in your mind. Sign number 2, he remembers the small stuff. Oh, he may not text you good morning every day, but bring up that one random story you told 3 weeks ago about your dog or your favorite candy or that little scar you got as a kid, and he'll recall it like it just happened yesterday. That's a man taking notes in silence. He might act cool, but he's keeping a mental diary with your name on it. Sign number 3, he shows up where you are. Now, he'll never admit it, but somehow he keeps appearing at your favorite spot. You didn't tell him you'd be there, but there he is. Oh, wow, what a coincidence. Coincidence. Please, he's not following you, but he sure knows where the odds are good he'll bump into you. That's strategy disguised as chance. Sign number 4, his mood changes around you. This one is important. Watch his energy. Around other folks, he might be chill, laid back, even quiet. But when you walk in, suddenly he's cracking jokes, fidgeting, standing tall, or trying to impress. Or maybe he gets nervous and clams up. Either way, you shifted the atmosphere, and he can't hide it. That's a man fighting hard not to let the truth slip out. Sign number 5, he low-key checks your social media. Oh, he might not like every post. Don't be fooled by that silence. But he's scrolling, trust me. He saw that new picture. He read that caption. And when he finally talks to you, somehow he brings up things you never told him directly. That's because he's tuned in like a late-night radio show. Sign number 6, he acts protective in little ways. He may not throw his arm around you in public, but he notices when you're walking alone, when somebody talks slick to you, or when you look uncomfortable. Suddenly, he's right there, acting like he just happened to notice. That ain't random. That's instinct. You don't get protective over somebody unless you feel something strong. Sign number 7, his friends know who you are. Pay close attention. If his boys already know your name, your laugh, or that one story about you, then guess what? He's been talking. Men don't sit around sharing details about women they don't care about. If you're a topic in his circle, you're a topic in his heart. Sign number 8, he gets jealous but tries to hide it. He act cool when you mention another guy, but that jaw tightens. That laugh is a little too forced. He might even suddenly switch topics or throw a slick joke. That's jealousy dressed up in a 3-piece suit. He doesn't want to admit it, but his emotions just betrayed him. And sign number 9, he always finds his way back to you. Now, this one is the ultimate tell. He may go quiet, act distant, disappear for a bit, but sooner or later that phone rings, that text shows up, or he randomly checks on you. Because no matter how hard he tries to play it cool, he can't shake you. When a man circles back like that, it means one thing: you're stuck in his head like his favorite song. So don't be fooled by that distant act. Some men think playing it cool makes them look in control, but their actions always tell on them. If you see these signs, don't doubt it. You're already in his head, baby, deeper than he ever planned. When he acts distant but keeps showing up in subtle ways, that's proof you're already on his mind, because distance is often not what it looks like on the surface. Some men are not the type to be overly expressive with their feelings. They don't always come out and say, I miss you, or I've been thinking about you, because vulnerability can feel uncomfortable to them. Instead, they build this little wall of space, acting like they're unbothered. But then their actions start to give them away. You might notice he doesn't text you much, but somehow he's always present when it counts, almost like he can't help himself. That's because a man can try to hide what he feels, but he can't hide where his energy keeps pulling him back, and energy doesn't lie. Think about those moments when you're out and about and somehow he's there too. Maybe he says it's a coincidence. Maybe he shrugs it off like it's nothing, but deep down, you know it isn't random. People go where their heart pulls them, even if they don't admit it. When a man acts distant, but then manages to show up in spaces where you are, it's not because he had nowhere else to be. It's because he's making sure he doesn't lose that connection. He may not want to reveal that you're in his head, but his steps tell a story his words will not. That kind of subtle presence speaks volumes louder than empty confessions ever could. It's the little things you've got to pay attention to. He might act like he's not paying attention to you, but somehow he notices when you've changed your hairstyle, or when you walked in a room, or when you've been quiet longer than usual. Distant men don't operate with grand gestures. They operate with small, almost hidden signs that you're occupying their thoughts. You'll notice he pops up with a question that seems innocent, but it's really him checking if you're still accessible to him. He may text you out of the blue late at night, not because he suddenly got bored, but because when everything gets quiet, his mind goes back to you. Distance during the day is just a performance, but those random, I was just thinking, moments tell you what's really going on. A man might hold back his affection because he doesn't want to look weak, or he's scared of moving too fast, or he's testing how much you'll chase him. But even then, if you've settled into his thoughts, he won't be able to stay away completely. He'll still want to check in on your world. He'll still want to be around enough to feel your presence. It's almost like he's torn between what he feels and what he thinks he should show. That conflict is what creates the distance, but the subtle ways he lingers are what reveal the truth. Even in conversations, you can catch it. He may not shower you with words, but he'll ask questions that prove you're not just a passing thought to him. He'll want to know how your day was, who you've been around, or what you've been up to, even if he tries to phrase it casually. That's his way of keeping tabs without exposing how much he really cares. Some men call it being back or cool, but in reality, it's them trying to manage their feelings while still keeping a door open to you. Distance doesn't cancel feelings. It just disguises them in quieter forms. Watch how he behaves around others compared to you. If he's generally relaxed, but with you, he can't help but adjust himself, fixing his clothes, straightening up, lowering his voice, or suddenly cracking more jokes then you already know you've gotten under his skin. That's not the behavior of a man indifferent to you. That's a man who thinks about you enough to care about how you see him, even if he tries to play it cool. Those small adjustments are subtle ways of showing up without declaring it outright. Social media is another place where his presence shows itself. Maybe he doesn't like your post every single time, but he's watching. He notices who comments. He pays attention to the energy you put online. And sometimes he might drop a reaction here or there just to remind you he's still in the background. Men who act distant in person often use these quiet little avenues to stay connected. It's less about the action itself and more about the fact that he just can't resist staying tuned into your life. Distance can also show up in how he communicates. He might disappear for a while, then suddenly reappear with a reason, an excuse, or just a simple, hey. That's not random. That's him trying to balance his feelings, pushing himself away to regain control, then getting pulled back because the thought of losing you feels worse than acting distant. That push and pull dynamic is exhausting, but it reveals everything he can't fully let go because you've already settled in his thoughts too deeply. Even when he tries to downplay it, the evidence shows up in consistency. If no matter how far he pulls away, he always circles back in small, subtle ways, then it's obvious you've captured space. In his mind, he can't escape. He may not stand on a rooftop and shout it, but actions don't need microphones. The truth is that presence, even disguised as coincidence, is never an accident. His distance may confuse you, but those subtle reappearances, those small actions, and those little coincidences are the trail of proof that you're living in his head, whether he admits it or not. A man's silence may fool you, but his small actions always reveal where his heart is because silence is often used as a mask. Some men are not raised to openly express emotions. Some are taught that showing feelings makes them vulnerable. So instead of speaking, they retreat into quiet. But the truth is, when someone truly cares, their body, their habits, and their choices can't help but betray them. Silence might keep the words locked inside, but love, interest, or attraction has a way of slipping out through the cracks in the form of actions that are often louder than anything they could ever say. When you pay attention to the patterns, the gestures, and the energy shifts, you begin to see the truth hidden in the quiet. For example, a man may not tell you outright that he misses you, but watch what he does when you're not around. He might text you out of nowhere just to check in, or he might find subtle ways to linger in your presence longer than necessary. That is not random behavior. Those little choices show that his thoughts are circling back to you even when he doesn't want to admit it. He may think silence makes him unreadable, but the truth is those small acts become a language of their own. A door held open, a quick glance when you're speaking to someone else, an unexpected call at the end of the day. Those are all signs that his heart is leading him even when his lips won't. It is often in the details that the truth lies. A man who seems silent but still remembers the small things you've mentioned is telling you exactly how he feels without ever saying it. If you told him about your favorite snack weeks ago and one day he shows up with it, that isn't coincidence. That's memory tied to care. If you casually mention a place you wanted to visit and later he suggests going there, that's not silence. That's his heart taking notes and then writing them back into your story. Men may hold back words, but when their actions start lining up with the things that matter to you, that's them speaking in a different dialect. You can also see it in the way his energy shifts when you enter a room. He may not say a word, but his posture changes, his eyes follow you, his attention diverts from whatever else is happening. That is silent communication at its clearest. Silence does not erase presence, it amplifies it because you notice what someone does when they have no words to fall back on. You see who they look at, who they move closer to, who they protect, and who they prioritize. A man who is silent but cannot stop reacting to your presence has already shown you where his heart is pointing. Social media, phone calls, and even digital breadcrumbs can tell on him too. He may not flood your inbox with long confessions, but he'll be watching. He'll like one post here, drop a small comment there, or suddenly bring up something he saw on your page in conversation. That's a man who uses silence to mask the depth of his attention, but his small actions reveal he's keeping tabs on you. He may never say, "I think about you all the time," but the fact that he notices details from your world proves it without needing the words. Silence in public, interest in private. That's the balance many men create when they're hooked but cautious. Jealousy is another one of those silent but telling signals. A man may laugh it off, play it cool, act like he's not bothered, but when another guy's name comes up, watch his face. Silence will be the cover, but the body always speaks. The tightened jaw, the quick change of topic, the subtle sarcasm, those are the small actions that show exactly what he won't say out loud. He can keep his mouth closed, but his heart is too loud to stay hidden forever. Even in the way he supports you, silence can be misleading. He may not shower you with verbal encouragement, but he'll show up for the things that matter to you. He'll check in on your progress. He'll lend a hand when you least expect it. He'll be present in the background in ways that don't call attention to themselves. That's not just kindness, that's silent investment. A man who does not care won't make those consistent, thoughtful efforts. Silence might hide the why, but actions expose the what. What makes this more powerful is the contrast between what he withholds and what he gives. The more he tries to act indifferent, the more obvious those little actions become because they stand out against the backdrop of his quiet. A random text from someone who's usually silent isn't random at all. It's a sign that despite all his efforts to play it cool, you keep breaking through. A man may pride himself on being unreadable, but human nature cannot be silenced forever. Emotions demand expression, even if only in small, almost hidden ways. Sometimes silence is not even about hiding, it's about fear. Fear of rejection, fear of moving too fast, fear of being too vulnerable. But fear does not cancel interest, it just shifts it into quieter lanes. He may act calm and collected on the outside, but on the inside he's constantly checking, adjusting, reaching in little ways to stay connected. Silence becomes a protective shield, but actions leak through the cracks like light through a curtain. That's why if you stop focusing only on what he says and instead watch what he does, you'll never be confused about where you stand. A man's silence can be a game, it can be insecurity, it can be pride, but at the end of the day, his actions are the truest reflection of his heart. Words can be rehearsed, silence can be maintained, but actions are instinctive. When he leans in when you speak, when he makes time, even when he's busy, when he notices things others miss, those are not accidents. That is his heart speaking in a way his lips are not ready to. Silence is temporary, but actions leave footprints that show exactly where his emotions walk. If he remembers details others forget, you're not just someone, you're important to him because memory is not casual. Memory is selective. People remember what matters to them, what strikes their emotions, what lingers in their mind when everything else fades. When a man holds on to the little things you say, the kind of details that even your closest friends might overlook, it's because those moments meant more to him than you realized. He might not say it directly, but remembering is his way of showing that you stand out from the rest. A man doesn't just store random information for no reason. He keeps what is meaningful to him, and if it's about you, it means you've carved space in his thoughts. Think about how many conversations you have in a day, how many people you speak to, how much information flows in and out of your mind. Most of it disappears within hours. But if you mention in passing your favorite drink, the name of your childhood pet, or a story from when you were younger, and weeks later he brings it up, That's not coincidence. That's intention. That's him holding on to what you gave him because it's stuck in a place where his feelings lie. People don't cling to small details unless the person behind them matters. His silence might make you wonder if he's paying attention at all, but his memory proves you've got his focus in ways he can't hide. It's also the way he uses those details that tells you the truth. He might surprise you with something you mentioned only once, like taking you to a restaurant you said you loved, or remembering the date of an event you were nervous about, or asking how your family member was doing weeks after you told him they were sick. That kind of recall isn't accidental. It shows he values what you say, and more importantly, he values you. A man who remembers is a man who listens with his heart, not just his ears. Even when he doesn't act directly on what you've shared, just the fact that he remembers is proof you occupy his mind. If you tell him you don't like a certain food, and later you notice he avoids suggesting it, that's him applying the memory. If you mention a goal and later he asks how it's going, that's him showing he cared enough to track your words. It's not the big grand gestures that reveal how hooked a man is. It's the small consistencies, the quiet reminders that he's listening even when you think he's not. The truth is, remembering requires effort. It means he's not letting the conversation pass by without attaching meaning to it. When someone doesn't matter to you, you forget. When someone does, you replay the words in your head. You think about them again later. You keep them close. That's what he's doing when he recalls details others forget. It's his heart telling on him through his memory. This kind of attention often shows up in the moments you least expect. You might be talking about something completely unrelated, and suddenly he connects it back to something you told him before. He might say, "Didn't you say you loved this?" Or, "I remember you told me once that you hated that kind of weather." Or, "Didn't your brother have something going on last week?" Those comments are his way of letting you know, without directly admitting it, that he has been holding on to the pieces of you've shared. That's not just attentiveness, that's investment. A man who is emotionally detached will let details slip by without registering them. He'll hear you, but he won't retain it. The fact that he remembers means you've left an impression strong enough to stay with him. It also means that he's probably replaying conversations in his head, revisiting the words you've spoken, and finding meaning in them long after the moment has passed. That's a deeper level of thought than casual listening. It's evidence that he values what comes from you because you're not just background noise to him. You can often see how unique this is when you compare it to how he treats others. He might forget things about coworkers, acquaintances, or even friends, but when it comes to you, the memory is sharper, more detailed, more precise. That contrast reveals the truth. It's not that he has a flawless memory. It's that he has selective memory, and you are at the center of selective memory is the clearest sign of importance because it shows he's choosing to hold on to what involves you. Sometimes this remembering will come across in subtle, even playful ways. He might bring up a funny story you told once or remind you of something you said as if he's been waiting for the right moment to tease you with it. That's affection disguised as humor. Men who are hooked often use these little reminders as a way to reconnect, to test how much you notice that they've been paying attention. It's a game to them, but behind it is a very real truth. You've got space in his thoughts that nobody else occupies. Even when he's distant, even when he's not openly expressive, that memory is proof you're not forgotten. Silence can mislead, but remembering cuts through the doubt. If he recalls what matters to you, it means you've touched him in a way that goes beyond surface level attraction. Attraction fades quickly, but memory sticks when the person becomes important. That's why you should never underestimate the power of small details. They're not small at all. They're the hidden love letters a man writes without paper or pen, tucked inside the way he remembers the things that matter most about you. Jealousy he tries to hide is still jealousy. And it speaks louder than his words because no matter how smooth or calm he tries to act, emotions have a way of leaking through in the tiniest cracks. Men, especially those who don't want to look vulnerable, will often go out of their way to mask how they feel when they think another man is catching your attention. He'll laugh it off, pretend he doesn't care, maybe even switch the subject quickly, but his body language, his tone, his sudden shift in energy will tell you more than he ever will with words. That jealousy is not about control, it's about the fear of losing the place he's been secretly holding on to in your life, and that fear is hard to hide. It often shows up in the way his demeanor changes. You might be talking casually about a male friend or someone you work with, and though he's silent, you notice his jaw tighten, his shoulders shift, or his eyes dart away just a little too fast. That's not nothing. That's jealousy speaking in a silent but powerful language. He might joke about it, making a sarcastic comment or teasing you. But behind that humor is the uncomfortable truth that he's bothered. That little sting he feels, even if he masks it well, reveals that you are not just any woman in his eyes. When a man is truly indifferent, he doesn't care who you talk to or what you do, but when he's hooked, even the smallest mention of another man registers like a spark. He might also respond by subtly trying to reclaim his space without outright admitting it. Maybe he suddenly grows more attentive when another man is around, or he makes an effort to be seen standing close to you, or he jumps into conversations just to make sure his presence is felt. These are all quiet acts of jealousy. He's not going to declare out loud that he's uncomfortable, but his actions scream it anyway. It's a protective instinct mixed with fear, and it surfaces even when he doesn't want it to. Sometimes jealousy appears in the form of questions. He won't directly accuse or demand answers, but he'll slip in casual lines like, "So who was that?" Or, "How do you know him?" Or, "You hang out with him often." He frames it lightly like he's just curious, but the undertone is clear. He wants to know where he stands compared to this other man. That's insecurity mixed with emotion, and it reveals that he's invested in you, whether he admits it or not. Another way hidden jealousy shows is through his mood. He could be cheerful and relaxed, but once the subject of another man comes up, you notice a sudden shift. Maybe he goes quiet, or maybe he becomes short with his answers, or maybe he finds a reason to cut the conversation short altogether. That's not coincidence. That's his emotions overriding his ability to play it cool. Even silence at that point isn't neutral. It's heavy with unspoken thoughts, and you can feel it in the atmosphere. Even on social media, jealousy has a way of slipping through. He may not comment on every post, but let another man's name pop up under your picture, and suddenly he's paying closer attention. He might not say anything directly, but he'll start interacting more with your post or bring up something he saw online when you talk. It's his quiet way of reminding you he's watching, of re-establishing his place without saying it outright. That's jealousy in disguise, and it's often stronger than the obvious, vocal kind because it's harder for him to control. Sometimes men will even try to mask jealousy by pretending to be completely uninterested. They'll act extra nonchalant like nothing phases them, but that very effort to show indifference is proof of the opposite. Indifference doesn't need performance, it's natural. When a man goes out of his way to look unbothered, it's because inside he is bothered. That's why jealousy he tries to hide is actually louder than jealousy he admits, because the cover-up draws attention to the emotion he's trying to bury. In group settings, jealousy can also come out in competition. If another man makes you laugh, suddenly he's cracking his own jokes. If someone else compliments you, suddenly he finds a reason to point out something he likes about you. It may feel subtle, but it's his way of showing you that he doesn't want to be outshined. That competitiveness is fueled by jealousy, and even though he may not name it, it's an unmistakable sign that he values how you see him. The intensity of hidden jealousy is also a clue to how much space you occupy in his head. A man who is not invested won't even notice when you talk about others, let alone react. But a man who is hooked will feel that little twist in his chest. And no matter how hard he tries to keep it under wraps, the signs are there. It might be in his eyes, in the way he shifts the conversation, in the sudden change in tone. The attempt to stay silent about it only highlights how much he feels it. Jealousy, even in its hidden form, is not just about insecurity. It's about attachment. It's about the realization that he has something to lose, that you are not just passing through his life, but someone who matters enough to stir fear inside him. That fear of losing his place in your world makes him react even when he wants to appear distant and controlled. And that reaction, even disguised as indifference, is proof that you're not only in his thoughts, you're in his emotions too, shaping them in ways he can't completely hide. His friends knowing about you means you've been a subject of his private thoughts, because men don't casually talk about women unless those women have made an impression deep enough to spill over into their conversations. When a man brings you up to his circle, even in small ways, it shows that you've been occupying his mind long enough for him to share pieces of you with the people he trusts. Friends are like a mirror into his inner world. They reflect the things he's been carrying quietly. And if they already know who you are before you even meet them, it means you've been on his radar far more than he's let you see. Men don't waste words on people they aren't invested in. They might mention someone in passing, but they don't give details. They don't tell stories. They don't paint pictures unless the person matters. If his friends know your name, know something about your personality, or even know small things like where you work or what you like to do that didn't come from nowhere, That came from conversations where he chose to bring you into his world. Whether he realizes it or not, sharing you with his circle is his way of processing his feelings. Talking about you makes those feelings real. And once his friends know, it means you've already claimed a bigger space in his life than his silence lets on. Sometimes the signs show up in how his friends act around you. Maybe the first time you meet them, they already know about that funny story you told him, or they tease him when you walk in, or they give you that knowing look, like you've been the headline of their private jokes. That's proof he's been talking. Even if he tries to brush it off, their reactions tell the truth. Friends will often reveal what he's been keeping quiet because they've been the audience to his unspoken thoughts. If they know you without you knowing them, it means he's been replaying you in conversations. It's also important to recognize how men choose what to share. They don't bring just anyone into their circle of discussion because their friends are part of their reputation, part of their inner circle identity. When he mentions you, he's not just talking, he's introducing you into a space he protects. That's a level of acknowledgement that goes beyond casual attraction. If you were just another person, you'd be invisible to his friends. The fact that they know means he's been highlighting you in his life, even when you weren't around to see it. You can also see it in the way his friends treat you compared to other women. If they are unusually friendly, if they go out of their way to make you comfortable, or if they joke about how much he likes you, that's not random behavior. That's them responding to what he's been saying behind closed doors. Friends don't make those comments unless they've heard your name enough times to connect the dots. Their behavior is like an echo of his hidden feelings, a reflection of the fact that you've been a consistent topic. Men often use their friends as a safe space to explore what they're feeling. He may not be ready to confess directly to you, but talking about you to his circle is his way of easing into the idea. He might ask their opinion about you, share things you've said, or even brag about you without calling it bragging. That's how you know he's hooked, when you become a point of reference in his private conversations. Even his closest friends can see the shift because they know how often your name comes up. Sometimes the clues are subtle. You might notice his friends tease him when you're around, or they give him that look when your name comes up. That's not coincidence. That's them letting you know without words that you've been the subject of their group talk. Even if he tries to play it cool, his friends won't always protect that secret because they've been watching how much space you take up in his thoughts. They see what he tries to downplay, and their reactions are often more honest than his words. It's also telling how early he lets his friends know about you. If you've barely been around him and already his circle knows your name, that means you stood out fast. You made enough of an impression that he couldn't keep it to himself. Men don't usually rush to tell their friends about every woman they meet. So when he shares early, it's because he couldn't hold back. That's excitement mixed with attachment. And it means you've already got a firm place in his mental space. Even when he tries to act distant with you, his friends knowing about you exposes the truth. It shows that while he's pretending to be detached, behind closed doors, he's been anything but. A man might try to keep his cool in front of you, but his conversations with his circle will always betray where his heart is leaning. Friends don't accidentally know details. They know because he's been talking, and talking is proof that he thinks about you more than he admits. It's also worth noticing that men rarely share vulnerable feelings openly, but they will test the waters with their friends before they make a move. If he's bringing you up, it's likely because he's been considering what you mean to him, and speaking it out loud is his way of processing it. That's why when you meet his friends and they already act like they know you, it's a direct sign that you're living in his head. He's been replaying you so much that you've spilled out of his private thoughts into his social circle, and that's something men don't do unless they're already hooked. No matter how far he drifts, if he circles back to you, you've got a permanent place in his head because people don't keep coming back to situations that mean nothing to them. When a man creates distance, when he pulls away or disappears for a while, it can feel confusing and frustrating. You might think he's done for good, that he's lost interest, that he's moved on. But if after all that silence he reappears, if he suddenly finds a reason to check in, to call, to text, or to pop back into your world, that means you've been in his thoughts the whole time he was away. Absence is not always about disinterest. Sometimes it's about wrestling with emotions, about fear, about hesitation. But the return always exposes what's real. Drifting away is often a tactic or a habit. Some men pull back because they're overwhelmed by what they feel and they need space to process it. Some pull back because they're afraid of showing vulnerability, so they think Distance protects them from revealing too much. And some step away because they want to see if you'll notice, if you'll miss them, if their absence creates a reaction in you. But no matter what the reason is for the distance, the reappearance is the truth. You can't circle back to someone unless they've stayed in your mind. You don't look for someone you've forgotten. The fact that he finds his way back means that the bond you created with him is stronger than the excuses he gave himself while he was gone. Look closely at how he returns. It might be something as small as a, "Hey, how you been?" message, or it might be him suddenly appearing at a place he knows you'll be. It could be an excuse about needing advice or pretending he stumbled on a memory of you that made him reach out. However he dresses it up, the action itself tells you that while he was away, he never truly left you in his mind. Distance may have been the surface act, but beneath that, you remain. That pullback toward you is not casual. It's instinctive, it's emotional, and it's proof of the space you occupy in his thoughts. Even the timing of his return says something. Men often come back when they think they've managed to control their emotions, when they believe they've put enough distance to reset themselves, only to realize they can't shake the thought of you. That realization drives them back. No matter how much they try to resist, it's a cycle. You see him drift, then you see him return, and each return is another sign that he can't keep you out of his head. If you were unimportant, he'd leave and stay gone. The fact that he circles back shows he's tethered to you in a way he can't break. This back and forth dynamic is actually more revealing than constant presence. Anyone can stick around out of habit or convenience, but when someone leaves and still finds their way back, it's because something about you has imprinted on them. It means that even in their moments of distance, you're still part of their mental landscape. You're the thought that lingers at night, the memory that resurfaces when they're quiet, the person they compare others to when they try to distract themselves. That's why they return, not because of obligation, but because the connection refuses to let go. It's also important to see how the return is often filled with subtle tests. He may circle back casually, trying to gauge how you respond, checking if the door is still open. He might act like nothing happened, as if the distance was no big deal, but underneath that cool front is the truth. He's been thinking about you enough to make his way back. The effort to reconnect, no matter how small or awkward, is evidence of lingering attachment. He wouldn't risk rejection if you didn't matter. He wouldn't take the step if you weren't still in his head. Even if his returns are inconsistent, the very pattern shows you his reality. He might drift again, then come back again over and over. That repetition is not random. It's the cycle of someone who can't fully detach, someone who tries to create space but keeps finding himself pulled back toward you. Each return is a confession in disguise, proof that whatever he feels for you is stronger than the distance he tries to maintain. Men don't keep revisiting what doesn't matter. They only revisit what feels unfinished, what feels important, what feels irreplaceable. The way he re-enters your life after drifting can also show how deeply you're embedded in his thoughts. If he checks in on things only you shared with him, if he remembers details from before, if he makes references to moments you had, then it's clear that during the time he was gone, he was still carrying those memories. People forget easily when someone doesn't matter, but when they come back holding on to those little fragments, it means you've been active in their mind the whole time. His drift may have been silent, but his return speaks volumes. Sometimes he comes back not because he planned it, but because something triggered the memory of you and he couldn't resist. A song, a place, a phrase, anything that connected him back to you pulled him in again. That's how memory works when someone has settled into your head. The world itself keeps reminding you of them. For him, those reminders lead him straight back to you, no matter how far he tries to go. His return is simply the action following the thought he couldn't shake. Distance can be an illusion when the bond is real. A man can drift, he can act like he's detached, he can put up walls, but when he keeps finding his way back, it shows the truth louder than anything he could say. His actions confirm that you're not just someone he can walk away from and forget. You're the one he leaves but can't leave behind. The one he tries to release but ends up returning to. The one who has a permanent seat in his mind, no matter how much he tries to rearrange his feelings. That repeated return is the ultimate sign that you've made a lasting impression he can't erase.